Om Sai Sri Sai Jaya Sai Om. Om Sai Sri Sai Jaya Sai Om.
Thank you for that very warm introduction, Sister Meeta. You studied in Anantapur, right?
Yes.
So it's from my generation, the Anantapur and Puttaparthi were rivals. So it's indeed a miracle that one Anantapur student is actually giving a warm introduction to a Puttaparthi alumnus. So thank you. Offering my most prayerful salutations at the feet of our beloved Master Bhagavan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Meeta and her husband Harish for giving me this opportunity to be here and to all of you to be part of this gathering. This is actually my very first satsang in India, outside of Puttaparthi, if you will. And it struck me this morning because I don't recall when was the last time I actually spoke about Swami outside the ashram, outside his presence. So, because I came out of Puttaparthi and then went to Bahrain and then from US and so on, I never had an opportunity to actually do a satsang like this in India. When I came out of Puttaparthi in 1994, I locked up Swami in my heart and I said, this is my most sacred possession, and I didn't have this idea of going around talking, anything like that. Like we have our honeymoon pictures all locked up, you don't display it to anybody because it's a personal thing. So that's how personally we were with Swami. But Swami had other plans. So he sneaked me into a small 2-3 people at homes and here and there, and slowly one thing led to the other. And in the US, I realized how devotees valued Swami. And to me, that was a whole different experience of meeting devotees. Many of them who haven't seen Baba yet, they haven't even been to Prashantanilayam. They have heard of him, they've heard of stories, they've read about him, but they have not seen him in person. And especially children and youngsters. Now, I mean, the Generation Z and the Millennium, none of them have actually seen Swami in that sense. So, that experience was very, very mind-blowing for me, because when I came out and actually met devotees, it wasn't my stories that they heard as much as what I took home, the actual omnipresence I that I saw there. It was like getting, in Sanskrit they say Vishwarupa Darshana. You see him in every heart, every soul, you see him everywhere. The experience was actually seeing him so alive, so powerful in every nook and corner of not just America, it was Canada or London or Australia, wherever I went, where Swami called me to, through his devotees to address. That presence was so humbling that when I look back and I think, oh my God, this was the Swami with whom I sat at his feet, or even today when I was sitting and looking at this room, this was the feet I sat at, this was the chair we cleaned. And so it's a very humbling thing. And so it's always with a heart full of gratitude and a deep sense of maybe a pride on one side, because proud to know him, proud to be a part of this gathering, this group, this generation who has breathed the same air that he breathed, to walk the same earth that he walked, which will only be now in history, right? So in one sense there is pride, but in a greater sense there is a lot of humility. And so whatever I share is only from that very humble perspective and approach. So if I do appear to preach something, it is only out of my earnestness that people realize what a great divine gift we have in our midst, we have had and we continue to have in our midst. And it is only that enthusiasm which might prompt me to say this and that, but otherwise I have no intentions to preach. I come to learn as much as you all come. I think satsang is though we have one speaker maybe and others listeners, that speaker listens as well. And because it is somebody else who orchestrates all of these gatherings. That has been my experience, and therefore it is in that context that I share. It is in that, with that attitude, that I share whatever I have to share today. I asked Sister Meeta how much time. She said there's no time limit. So I don't know about you, but the stories I have can keep us here until next weekend if you want. But don't worry. I know Govind was sitting next to the door waiting to run. I pulled him in. I'll share some thoughts, and then maybe we can make it informal, and if there is any questions, if you have, or any thoughts to share, we can take it from there. I have always had a very unorthodox approach to Swami, a very down-to-earth approach to Swami. And for some of you who have not heard my story, or those of you who have heard, just bear with me. The unorthodoxy in my approach to Swami comes from the fact that I was not raised in a Sai family. I was raised in a very orthodox South Indian family. My last name is Iyer, so you can imagine how orthodox they had to put that, Pandit's stamp on my name, Iyer. So I was born and raised in Mumbai, and I studied in St. Xavier's High School. And so we were about 9 people. My sister is here with me today. We were about 9 people in the family in our little apartment in Villeparle. Orthodox in the sense of the ideas of God, the idea of what a holy man is, the idea of spirituality was very dogmatically engraved in our brains, if you will. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I have revisited those, but there was a lack in explaining what and why and how we do those practices or whatever it was. It was just that we were told to do this, you also do this. So right from why a sacred thread has to be put for chosen people, from there I didn't have my questions answered. So by the time I was in my teenage, I was literally the black sheep in the family. I would question everybody. And ironically, my grandfather, who was in Matunga, he would invite every sannyasi or every saint, and some of these people are well known. The Ganapati Satchidananda, whom we call Appaji here, in his young days has visited my grandfather's home very often. Swami Satchidananda from the Shivananda Institute, who established a yoga ashram in Virginia, he knew my grandparents very well. So I was probably 2-3 years old then. So at some level, we used to have a lot of satsangs at home. Sri Pittikuli Murugadas, for some of you might have heard of him in the south. We literally grew with him. Every time we come to Bombay, he would stay in Vadala. There was a home, and in our home, he would come and stay. And he would sing bhajans like this. The satsangs would go late into the night. So I was literally raised up like that. So our holidays were only from one temple to another. Birthdays were all celebrated inside temples with pujas, The night Harikatha, Kalakshemam was the outings, late night outings, if you will. So I don't remember whether we did temple hopping. They have this, what is it called? Bar hopping or something.
Pub hopping.
What is that?
Pub hopping.
Pub hopping. See, there you ask a youngster, he'll know what it is. Never mind. So we had temple hopping. So that was the atmosphere I was raised up, right? And like any time you come to a point in life, and I guess parents understand this as teenagers, we start asking questions as to why are we doing this? Because we try to find our own identity, our own faith, our own belief system, if you will, and that wasn't encouraged. And so I was literally the black sheep. I started questioning anything and everything. And to the shock of everyone in the family, I wanted to finish my 12th grade and join the Film Institute in Pune. Maybe in part to defy my family, but in another part I was just attracted because those were the days of Amitabh Bachchans and Vinod Khannas But then my parents were not just orthodox, they were very deeply rooted in spirituality. They were not able to explain to me their path in as much as we learned now, for whatever reason. But they were very deeply established in their own spiritual practices. For them, Namasmarana, Sankirtana, though I was a kid, I was just going with them to all these programs, but they were emotionally and totally involved in the Harikatha Nama, Kalakshemams, and all those, warriors who would give discourses on Murugan in Matunga in Mumbai and all of that, and Swami Haridas. So they have gone with him in pilgrimages to Pandharpur and all of that. So I wasn't able to tune into that. I wasn't not able to understand. But their faith, their devotion had to bear fruit in some form. So it had to guide me. And that's how I think circumstances weaved its way in such a manner that I found Swami on my own. My father got transferred from Bombay. He went off to Haryana in some remote village called Bahadurgarh at that time. I guess it's not as remote now. 60 kilometers from Delhi. There was no proper school or college. So the whole family was like, what would this boy do after his 12th grade? There's no college? Whom will he stay with? And all of those questions came up. And that's when I met Sai Datta in Bombay, in Worli, who was engaging young boys in the summer to teach them how to paint black and white pictures. There was those days color pictures were very rare. And so the black and white pictures there was something called Fuji colors. You color them. So he used to call us, a few of us, and give them, because he had so many orders. So he would engage us. That's how I got to see Swami in those pictures I was coloring. And these were days before Google and smartphones, so I had no idea who it was. I thought it was some rock star or something. He was always with a car or sitting in thrones. And the reason I couldn't place him immediately was because of the Orthodox upbringing. Our definition of a holy man was nowhere close to what Swami looks, right? Even to a large extent today. The more a person is in tatters, the more holier we think they are, So we have our own ideas, fixed ideas of how a holy man should be. And I'll come back to that bit, because those are the wonderful things an incarnation, a master of this nature, breaks those barriers of thought. It opens our heart and mind to think much wider, so we don't get boxed in and become more dogmatic. He comes to break us free from those dogmatic belief systems and discover God in a new way. So I really didn't recognize who he was till Sai Datta I asked him, I'm only painting orange and red color. So doesn't he wear any other colors, robe? And who is he, by the way? And then he explained, this is Sai Baba. And I said, oh, okay, another holy man. I don't want to get involved. He said, no, but this is your kind of holy man. And then he started talking about Swami, and he said, you are looking for a college. He's going to open a college in Puttaparthi. Why don't you go there? So my first reaction, of course, was no, I don't want to get involved. My idea was, again, holy man means pujas, bhajans, and this and that. I haven't had enough of it for the last 16 years. फिर से नहीं पढ़ना है उसके अंदर. So I was like, no, because my aim was to go to Film Institute and have the fun there. But he said, just check it out. Why don't you go and see? And if you like it, you can always go there. And having talked to me and introduced to me Baba, he said, why don't you read his book rather than you make up your own mind? He's not going to force you to do pujas and all, just read this. So he gave me the Summer Showers and Brindavan book, and I opened it reluctantly. So I thought I'll go through it, because he might be like any other holy man, do this on Friday, do this on Monday, this, that, something might be there. And I was just looking for why I don't want to get involved in this. That's how I was very cynically took that book. And strangely, it was Swami's teaching that came to me, not about his life or anything. It was his teaching. Summer Showers is just a collection of Swami's discourses. So I went through that one lecture after the other, and I was surprised to find that he was talking my language, in the sense, love is God. I said, this is what I always believed. It's a simple service to man, a service to God. Religion of love. These are things that I immediately liked. So this is, a person who's talking my language. There is no this God versus this God, and he was giving us the essence of the Puranas, the essence of Ramayana story. There was always a context in which he presented the story of Krishna or Rama, not just told the story and went away. So there was, for me, I couldn't find fault. I couldn't say why I don't want to follow this. It only piqued my interest in who this person is, who's talking like the way I've always wanted to listen to as a young boy. I wanted to listen to this kind of language, which made sense to me at that point. And I'm talking, this was 1978. So we have, of course, come a long way from that to now. I don't even know how to talk to youngsters now. When I'm very afraid, it's when I have to face youngsters. And especially the toddlers. They have group 1, group 2, they call SSCs. My gosh, they're the enlightened sages and saints sitting in front of me. And I pray to Swami that I'm able to, they ask me questions that really put me at my spot. Anyway, so that's how the universe orchestrated in such a way that I was led to explore, to come to see Swami. Of course, when my parents heard that Sai Baba in college, my father was there, he said, no, nothing. My grandmother was literally like, there's no way they should go into all this Baba and all that. We have Murugan, we have Shivan, there's no place for Sai Baba and all of that. So he was a big no in the family. Because look at the hairdo and look at that silk robe. But then I told my father, I believe it was free education. Then immediately the whole thing changed. Okay, then in that case, go try and see. Almost instantaneously. And I always say this because there's such a beautiful lesson there that Swami opened his doors to anybody. You come because you want to get free education, come, you're welcome. You don't have to have the qualification of that, or you're only a spiritual seeker and therefore you have to come into Puttaparthi. You're coming, you want to get educated, you want to get a degree, you are sick, you want to get healed, you're sick, you want to come in. Okay, everybody can come in, It's an echo of the Bhagavad Gita, which says Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu, Gnani. All of them are my devotees. Even those who are craving for healing or somebody wants more money, all of them come. That's the kind of doors that he had opened in Puttaparthi, right? Today there is really no one to say what is the qualification to go to Puttaparthi. Nothing. Zero qualification. You could be the most selfish and the most greedy person, you will still find a place there. And there the transformation begins. There's a whole purpose of that, right? And so for me, who was looking for a place away from family, away from parents who will otherwise keep saying study, it seemed welcome, but I've not gone there yet. I've not been to Puttaparthi. So my father first said, okay, go try it and see. And so when I went there to Puttaparthi, I went to Dharmavaram station, took the Tonga, the bullock cart or the horse thing, and sat in it, and I was going. Almost instantly I decided I'm going to like Puttaparthi. You know why? Because that Tonga from the station reminded me of Sholay, and there was no Basanti driving, unfortunately. But because that time Sholay was still very much in the Sholay movie, right? And so I was like, Arey, this is like Sholay movie, yeah. This is like Tonga and all. I never from Bombay coming out like this. It was suddenly, and then Puttaparthi, when I entered, I just fell in love with the place, the mountains, the hills, the rivers. Those days there wasn't this kind of buildings that you see now. And so it was just so serene. I instantly, within a day, I kind of fell in love with the place. For no reason. Now I know there must be some previous life connection, for absolutely no doubt about that. But at that point, that was my first thing. And then I saw Swami, and there wasn't a magic moment, I think, that I saw, and I saw, aha, this is my guru. It didn't happen. I was very curious. I saw him at a distance wave his hand and create, and I said, someday I must get closer to see how that happens. So I was very, very curious about all of this. I spent 2 weeks because I was waiting for my results, my 12th standard results that had to come. I was waiting there in Puttaparthi for the results to come. I spoke to the principal to get admission, and he said, yeah, you can always get depending on what marks you get in your 12th grade. And he told me, if you're 60% And nowadays they have grading system, but those days they had percentage system, right? So people from my generation can know that. So 60% or above you can get BCom, 80% and above you can choose sciences, and for some reason they put arts last. So 40% and above you can get into arts. And my father had said BCom is what you're going to take. In my generation, parents decided what line we are supposed to take. A couple of exams, I didn't do well in math or something, they decided math nahi hota iske liye. You're not good in math, so it was drilled in my head, math and science is not for me. Although I'm actually very keen on, I'm very interested in that. But BCom, so my father said BCom, you do your BCom, and I have got a job as an accountant in Parley Biscuits, and so when I retire you get my job. I have spoken to the owners, so everything was, the whole path was kind of fixed. And so I was waiting for my marks card to come, hoping that I had 60% and above to get into the college. And all those days while I was waiting, I kind of became very intrigued about Swami, because when you're in Puttaparthi, you get to meet people. And as a young boy, I was, looking to every stone I was, I didn't leave it unturned, if you will. Every devotee I would meet and ask them, why did you come? I was a very curious guy. I wanted to make sure what is drawing people here. And people's stories were literally so bizarre for me to even believe. Because growing up, I heard about Murugan stories of Krishna and stories of Rama. We always thought those have happened in the past, Even stories of Jesus. When I studied in St. Xavier's, we read the Bible, we learned. We thought, we had talked about those at 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. But these people are telling similar stories, and that's happening like today, now, this person, So for me to put that together, to accept that would have meant that my whole life will change, because I didn't know, I knew that was something very big to even say yes. And so I was very intrigued by the stories I heard about Baba from devotees there. And then I would go into the villages, and somebody would say, these are Swami's classmates. Then I'll sit with them and go with some boys who knew Telugu and Hindi and ask them questions, just meet them and ask them, where did Swami spend his childhood? What did he do? Just very curious. What also touched me was when you sit for darshan and he walks towards you, as opposed to the traditional where the guru is seated and everybody makes a beeline to him or her. This was again breaking tradition, right? It was very new. Somebody has said, we go and sit, and he walks into us and he picks up, and I was like, wow, this is very new. Everything is so new. I was very, very intrigued. So that was happening while I was waiting for my marks card. There was no magical aha moment that drew me towards Swami. I was very, very curious. I wanted to know what he does in his room upstairs. Where does he live? I was trying to analyze the building. This is Bhajan Hall. This is where he gives interviews. Where is his room upstairs? Where should be his bedroom? What will it look like? Will it have a television there? What does he do there? How does he pass his time? All these questions are coming to my mind, because on one side I'm hearing these kind of fantastic stories, and on the other side he is walking just like anybody else. So I was finding it very difficult to match. And I'm sharing this only because we all perhaps go through in our own way in finding that God principle. Through a guru, through a name, a form. A name and a form, we need that, I think, to cling on to, and that through that we get the path. And that name and form could be an actual guru, it could be a deity. It doesn't matter at that moment. So for me to get there, it took a while. And my marks sheet came, my 12th grades came, and I got 48%. I'm not proud of it. I got only 48%. So I went to the principal. I said, but I need admission in commerce, because those days there was no entrance exam. This is the very first batch. So the principal will look at you and ask you a couple of questions, and he'll say, he'll sign it, and you go and attend the class. It was a very small college at that time. It was affiliated to the Sri Venkateswara University for the first couple of years. And then by the time we graduated, the Swami's Institute was formed. So we graduated out of the Sai University, thankfully, thanks to Swami. But the first couple of years we had the main, it was all under the university syllabus of Sri Venkateswara. So there wasn't really any entrance exams as such. So I went and pleaded with the principal, please sir, my father has told me all my acting skills which I wanted to put in Pune Film Institute, I tried here, nothing worked. I put big vibhuti patches, went to him to impress him. Maybe, if I show as my Sai devotee, he might have some soft corner for me. Nothing worked. He said, see my son, Baba has given me instructions I have to follow. You got 48%, you can take arts, but I cannot give you commerce. You can join the college, but bachelor's in arts. And I knew my father, I didn't want to go back and face him. And I said, there's no way this is going to happen. So I knew I had to go back to Bombay. And that is when, without even having formed any relationship, I turned that to anger against Baba. As youngsters, I guess anybody, if something goes wrong, we need somebody to blame. We turn to God or a guru or somebody. So I got angry with Baba. I just was an angry boy at that moment because things didn't work. I liked Puttaparthi, I liked the place. I wanted to know Baba, I wanted to be part of this college. It was far away from home. Everything was so perfect, and just this marks sheet. If only I had studied harder, but that was water under the bridge. So my return ticket was sent to me by post. My father had, sent a letter also with underlined, see, I told you to study hard. Now you come back, we'll see what to do and all that. So I knew this was the end. I was very angry, so I wrote I think that was my first letter to Swami, and very angry letter to Swami, saying that, people call you God and people call you Guru and you have so many powers and all. And here I am, I want to come and be part of this, and it looks like I have to go back. And so I just want you to know that I don't believe in anything like this, and the moment I'm going to give this letter to you, and whatever relation with God and you and all, I'm going to cut it off. Things like that. Whatever it was, I just poured my heart out as an angry youngster. Thank God those days there was no Gmail that I had sent it off to Swami. I can't take it back. Luckily it was in my hand. So I wrote the letter. I kept it in my pocket, and those days you go early and sit, you can sit right in the front line. So I went at 2:30 itself, made sure I sat right in the front, because I wanted to give the letter to Swami, look into his eyes and say defiantly, chalo, you think you're great, I'm giving you this letter, I'm going, I'm leaving you, you're not, that kind of a thing I want to do. So I sat with and Swami came out, he went to the lady's side. I was waiting, no expectations, because I realized now I had to go back and figure out where to study and all of that. So I kept my envelope in my hand, it was peeping out with both my hands, I was waiting. He came towards me. I put my hand up like this so he could just pick it up. He looked down and his hands came like this, because I told him about cutting relationships, right? So maybe it came. I remember all these very vividly. So he kept his hand on the envelope like this with his left hand. He put his hand like this, and to my utter surprise, he said, "Kya hai?" The very first words Baba spoke to me was "Kya hai?" "Kya hai?" He said like that. And immediately, instinctively, I went on my knees and I said, "Swami, admission, admission, admission. Baba, admission, admission. BCom, BCom, BCom." I have to mention that, right? Admission to hey, I'm getting admission, but I have to get in BCom. It was almost like my dad's voice was saying, "Tell him BCom." So I perhaps didn't realize I was loud in my volume. I don't know. I was kneeling down and said, "Swami, admission, admission, BCom, BCom, BCom." Swami said, "BCom? Be calm." Be calm. So very sweetly he laughed, the devotees laughed, and then he just let the envelope be with me. He didn't take it. But very uniquely he paused, he looked at the principal who was sitting across the sands on the other side. Their eyes met and he told like this, just waved like this and walked past. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it was something. So I was waiting for Darshan to get over. I rushed to the principal. I said, I spoke to Baba and he did something. He looked at you. He said, don't worry, don't worry. I want BCom. She said, yes, you will get BCom. Come tomorrow. So very sweetly, very gently, he opened that door. That is a very nostalgic, if you will, a moment in my life, because what if he just passed away? What if he had not taken that letter? What if he had said, oh, okay, go, and my blessings, go back to Bombay? What if? I guess the universe would have orchestrated different things as well for me. But this, what was in wait for me for the next 15 years or 16 years of my stay there was completely something I had not planned at all. It wasn't even in my wildest dreams. And it like a flower blooming, it bloomed. There was no predetermined path, because the university was putting courses as we grew with it, right? So that was on the one side. Even our spiritual progress was not a chartered path. It never is, right? It grows, it blossoms on its own. And our relation with Swami also blossomed on its own. There wasn't somebody to say this is exactly how it should be with your guru. It happened organically. It was strictly a one-on-one relationship. So that most life transforming experience that followed is something I look back and say, thank God you said kya hai. So that's it. I got into the college. The first big hurdle was done. My parents were happy. I got in. Then came another 1.5 years of wait for me to have a personal relation with Swami. Even then, there were about 50 or 60, there was only 50 students at that time, or 60 of us. There was a small batch of students for the 11th standard, 12th standard, and we were the first year graduation boys. So all put together, maybe 50 boys. The hostel was not ready, so we were living in the ashram. So nights we used to go and sleep on the sands, and so that 1.5 years that we stayed there from 1979 June till 1980 December, where the hostel was ready by then. So 1.5 years was also my, the first, oh poor thing, let him come in, phase went over. Now Swami just gave me that, all right, now that you've entered, let's get you in shape, My search has always been my relationship with God. And I say this because we all need to have that. My faith cannot become your faith. My stories will be interesting to you, but they're not your stories, right? When you're listening to my stories, my hope is that you draw parallels with your own story, and there's at some level you're comparing with your journey. And that's how we learn. That's what the power of a satsang is. But at the end of the day, my faith can never become your faith. And so as I stayed there, I saw boys touching Swami's feet. They're all, 95% of them were all devotees students, because first college, right? Nobody who didn't know Swami would not send their children, because they had no idea what Puttaparthi was, God forsaken place, there's no proper place also, transport there, who will send their children? So I was probably one or maybe one or two more like me, who were literally the stranded sheep who didn't know what to do. And so everybody fell at Swami's feet. I also used to touch Swami's feet. I was part of all of that, but the heart was not there. I was searching for, where is my guru in this? Why don't you ask me my name? Where is my one-on-one? How will you ever know me? I don't. My parents are not devotees. Nobody is devotees. How will you and I get there? So that yearning kind of grew slowly. Only to know him, nothing else more than that. I just wanted Swami to know me first, even before I built another thing. I had not thought of him as guru or God or avatar. Those things are all too much for me to even comprehend, as it is even today. If somebody asks, you don't speak Swami as an avatar, I said, I still have to get my head around the concept of an avatar. Who am I to claim he is or he is not? Because if I say he is, that means I know what an avatar is, what God is. If I say he is not, that also implies I know what it is. I don't. So labeling, we are quick to label. We want to label, and we think in labeling lies something. It's just a label. To me, he was as mysterious as he was that day. He is as unfathomable even today. But there was that phase where I saw him physically, I saw him talking to boys, I saw him calling boys' parents, I saw him calling boys by names. I said, when will my chance come, But it had to happen. It had to be 1.5 years after that. So the hostel inauguration came, and they said, what can we boys do to engage Swami as young boys. And Puttaparthi, we were the young boys from all over India, and so we thought of Bhangra dance. We were the one who broke the tradition. You know, when we first mentioned Bhangra dance, the elders in the ashram got really angry at us. They called us separately and said, "You boys, do you know this is an ashram? You can't be doing dance like that. We do bhajans here." I said, please ask Swami to come and see. Because that's the only thing we knew. I mean, Veda chanting and all of that started later, right? You put a bunch of youngsters and say, what do you want to do for God? We said, why don't we do Bhangra dance? There's another lesson there. See, it's like, we read about it in the scriptures that Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. You offer anything to God with love, He accepts it. There is really nothing that this should be offered, this should not be offered. Those are kind of traditions and schools of thought that might have come in the course of practice, and we kind of borrow it mindlessly maybe. Like we say, Shiva likes certain flowers you should never put it to Shiva, he'll get angry. All that kind of things are traditions we have built. But from the divinity's point of view, there is no likes and dislikes. But Swami was looking for was just devotion. And so he came, he saw the boys wanted to do a dance, okay, I'll go and see what it is, you know. I think we had the chance of showing off to Swami what a Bhangra dance was. We had fun doing it. And Swami laughed so much and he said, "Parale koti laga emo chestnaru," you know, like monkeys, they are doing something. But he said, you can do it, but just wear pants inside your lungis, okay? I don't want anything falling off and all. So, and we were thrilled that Swami gave permission and to the boys, because it was the hostel inauguration and he was coming to our place, and so we thought, not that it was our place, I mean he's the one who's given it, but nevertheless it was a home he was coming to bless, and so we wanted to organize some kind of cultural events for Swami. And so Bhangra dance was one of them, and then there was a talent search, what else can we do individually, group wise. So I raised my hand and I said, I can do yoga on the rope. Like in Bombay they teach you Malkham. Malkham is where you climb on a pole or on a rope. You actually can go and do asanas there. And I learned it when I was very young. My dad would wake us up at 4:30 in the morning and send us me and my cousins to go there. Much as we grumbled those days, it came in handy here. And so when I said that, they said, oh, this must be interesting. Baba has not seen something like that, so why don't you do that I was thrilled, because that was me getting a chance to show something individually to Swami. So I was really brimming with excitement, like, oh my God, I'm going to perform a solo. Dance was still a group dance and we are all turban and all. This is a solo performance. I said, oh my God, this is going to be great. And I also learned to jump through rings of fire in Vyayamsala in Bombay. So I said, I can do that also. So they said, okay, great. So I had a kind of program planned. And I don't want to bore you with all these details. But the point was, long story short, Swami loved every bit of what I did. In fact, there was a very significant event where when I jumped through the ring of fire actually got stuck in my body and I fell on the ground. And he was there, he pulled me out of that. All happened in that one evening, very memorable. So my close encounters with the fourth kind, if you will, happened on December 25th, 1980. That's when Swami literally held my hand and pulled me out of the fire. So I did the Agni Pariksha, if you will. I had to do, I guess. But the silver lining to that event was, the next day he came and said, where is the fire boy? You know, he called me and asked me, what is your name? So after about 1.5 years of wait, I had him actually ask me, what is your name? I said my name, where do you come from? I said Mumbai. And Swami said, this is the boy who jumped through fire, he did yoga on the rope. More than the fire thing, I think Swami was very impressed that I did yoga on the rope. And almost within a week later, he came to me, he said, are you teaching yoga to the boys? Are you teaching? Pillal Nepusnava, he asked. So he was talking to me already in Telugu and I was struggling to catch up in Telugu because it was still a foreign language for me. Eventually I did pick it up. But having already stayed there for 1.5 years or so, it wasn't so foreign to I always look back at these because Swami gave me the directions already right from beginning. He didn't say practice hard and learn, continue practicing. He said, are you started teaching the boys? Start teaching the boys. And thus he put me on this path of yoga. For me, yoga, even to this day, and for all of us, when we say yoga, it just predominantly means asanas and exercises. That's how we interpret today, thanks to all the way we have defined yoga. It's been reduced to a physical exercise, though it's actually a much broader philosophy. It's a means for self-realization, and it's a spiritual path. For me, that door to Swami opened because of my yoga on the rope. For me, that is my path. Physically, literally, it happened. At the same time, I took that to my heart and I said, this is my path to God. Because it gave me that chance to speak to him, and the fact that he started pushing me in that direction, I started practicing it. I even had a class with Indra Devi, a couple of classes when she was 72 years. There was a lady, European lady, her name was Indra Devi. Some of you who know Swami from the 70s and 80s, this name will be familiar. She wrote a book called Sai Yoga as well. It's out of print, I guess, now. And she lived up to 102 years. She was a European lady who came to India, so fascinated that she changed her name to Indra Devi. She was the first European student of a South Indian yoga teacher, Krishnamacharya, Chennai. That's why you're the Krishnamacharya Yoga Institute. So she would visit Swami a lot of times. And so I think it was somewhere in the 81 where Swami sent, I was in Vrindavan that time, Swami sent her saying, these boys are simply eating and sleeping, go show them some yoga asanas, inspire them. For me as a young boy, watching a 72-year-old lady do asana so gracefully, one thing set in my head that when I'm 72, I should be like that. That kind of it clicked with me, that path. Just clicked so well. I said, wow, how is she doing it? When I'm 72, I'll definitely do these asanas. I don't know, I still have 9 years to go there. But that is how Swami encouraged us. He gave us a chance to explore many paths. Weeks, months, years passed. But within the first few weeks after that, in February, March that year, 1981, he called me for my very first interview. And then in that interview, Swami asked me, what do you want? By then I was so curious to know what Swami does upstairs. How does he live his daily life? What does he do? I liked Swami. I liked everything about him. But like I said, maybe it was my upbringing in Mumbai. I don't know what it is. Even to this day, any path, any practice has to be very real for me. Otherwise, it's not. I don't feel guilty in saying this doesn't work for me, so I don't care much. It has to be like that. With God, it has to be a one-on-one, and it has to be real for you. I cannot do it because it worked for you. I cannot adopt your path. I can try it out and see. If it clicks, then I'll adopt it. So for me, Swami, I had to understand him fully. And therefore, when Swami asked me, what do you want? First, I talked about my sister, that she had some medical problems, and Swami took care of that. That brought Swami, the whole of my family into Swami's fold. That was another thing. But then Swami said, Tumko kya mangta hai? What do you want? And that time, almost impulsively, if you will, it came, Swami, I want to be in your room. Acha, come from tomorrow, he said. It happens so beautifully. Sometimes I think if somebody had given me time to think what to ask, I might have not asked. And there's an important lesson here for all of us, I think. I remind myself of that lesson, and that's what motivates me. What's the lesson here? The lesson is, don't be afraid to put out your desire for the very best you want. Many times if I was given a chance, for example, to ask, I would have thought, I can ask, but who am I to ask? There are other great devotees who have not even been up to his room. Who am I going to ask? I will put limitations on my own desire and somehow convince in the cloak of humility, I would say, no, it's not better not to ask. I'll just ask for Pad Namaskar. That is enough for me. This kind of a thing. Whereas he is just say, you ask and I'm going to say yes. That's what the universe does. The universe just says yes to everything. If you say this is enough for me, universe says yes, tatastu. That's why we say Shiva is Bholenath, right? He just says yes to everything because the universe only responds, reacts, and resounds our thinking. If we say this is I'm not so good at it, this is it, universe will say tatastu. God is only a reflection, reaction, and resound. So for me, that lesson is so powerful because at that moment I said, what do you want? I want to be in your room. Tatastu. Come from tomorrow. Tomorrow, that's it. Nothing like I will see, I will think about it, be a good boy, I will tell you. I would have still excitedly told you the story, but that was instantly, Swami, okay, you want to be, that's all. For me, that was like everything. And for him, it was, that's all. Oh, sure. And I use that even to this day, that I'm never afraid. The quote unquote ask, I'll come back to it in a separate context, but never be afraid to approach God with that. Let the vision which presents itself, let it be the grandest of all visions that comes. The grandest of all desires comes. If we have a child who says, I want to be the Prime Minister, you can't say, no, first study, then you be Prime Minister. We don't put limitations there. You just say yes to the child. Don't stop that dream from manifesting, because who are we to stop that, right? There is a Parikshit sitting there in every story of Bhagavata. Somewhere that Parikshit will be the source of bringing Bhagavata to the world. We don't know that. There will be a Swami Vivekananda sitting somewhere among the hundreds that we might talk to. Somebody, somewhere, somebody gets inspiration, and they might do something that will change the whole world. And so that is a very powerful lesson. And the fact that Swami said yes, I was so happy. I jumped up to hug him, and he said, hey, mera baal, you're spoiling my hair. He pushed me back, adjusted his hair, and he said, discipline, and walked out. I was so thrilled that I'm going to be in his room. I didn't even know what to do, whom to go, what to do. I just went next day morning at 5 o'clock and stood outside that interview room door. A couple of people asked, what are you doing here? I said, Swami called me. They looked at me in disbelief. Then one of them went up and told, I don't know what they said. They came back and said, okay, yeah, Swami is telling you to come up. And so there was a small little winding staircase with my heart pounding. I went up and then I took namaskar. Swami said, see, here discipline, no talking to anybody, silence and discipline, only Swami and you. The months that followed, about 5 or 6 months that followed there, was for me, that's what I wanted. I wanted to truly know him, what he does, right, for me to accept him. And so that was one of my greatest revelations. The simplicity of Swami touched me the most. The austerity of Swami touched me the most. For those who don't know that, it's very difficult for you to comprehend it when you see Swamis wearing silk robes, sitting on thrones, or going in Mercedes-Benz cars. That's what I thought as a youngster. If he has got cars in this, how it will be upstairs, right? Not that I was against it, I just wanted to know what it was. But it was exactly the other way around. It looked like he was royalty down here, but in his room it was just one single straight back chair, and there was literally nothing else. I look around, there is just stone walls, 100-watt bulb, no fancy pictures, no large picture windows, no fresh air to breathe in. There are windows, but they are wooden panels. Each window has short wooden panels. For those of you in the Prashant Nilayam, you will know that. And most of those panels are closed, except one is open. They are closed because if the windows are open, if Swami walks, and devotees will gather and they'll say, oh, Baba is giving darshan, and they'll be indisciplined. So in his own house, he kind of lived a prisoner type of thing. Everything is closed, blocked. Only lights, there are no lights, it'll be pitch dark, literally. It was like that. So for me, as days went into weeks, I began to ask myself, how does a person maintain sanity living in these tiny rooms? How does he do that? Anybody. So no TV, okay, by the way. So there was no TV. So I'm like, not that TV was a big thing those days, but still TV had just come in, right? So it was a new hot thing like smartphones are these days. It was 79, 80, so 75 or 6, that's when color TVs really started coming in. So no TV, no transistor radios, no cricket scores and matches to listen to. I mean, how does he spend his time? His pastime was just reading devotees' letters. and we would pile them up, and it will be literally piles, trays and trays of them will come. Even those days, a whole big sack will come, and then we'll have to arrange it, neatly so that Swami can pick it up, choose what to read, and then he'll tear it. And there's a trash can on this side, there is a mail dressing on this side, and chairs. That's it. That was his. He would get up in the morning, and so for me that austerity really struck me. And there were afternoons which will be really hot. The only thing was a ceiling fan. So the only luxury Swami allowed himself was remove the first 2 buttons in his room. Otherwise the silk robe will still be on. So I used to wonder, why does he do this? What is driving him to do this? And then how is he able to take this and actually provide positivity down there? Because when you go down there, I knew by then, we bhajans also we sing Daya Karo, Kripa Karo, interviews, people are going, he's solving people's problems, right? Imagine as a counselor, divine counselor if you will, at a physical level, he's just constantly giving, helping, sharing, I'm there for you, don't worry. And he comes out with darshan, there are sick people in the wheelchair. And I used to, I'm not saying this because it was audacity, but I used to put myself in his shoes, and I was like, I wouldn't even last a week like this. We think of boot camp sadhanas, or I might get along with Bharatesh and plan a boot camp, fitness camp. We can do it for 2 days, 3 days. We enjoy it, body pain. It's a great adventure. But think of a boot camp for the rest of your life, a spiritual boot camp. That's what Swami was. He was living a spiritual boot camp. So, when we talk of doing big things in life, as individuals or as groups, we have big dreams, we want to achieve big things. Yes, absolutely possible. But then what is it that takes you there? The lifestyle that is in alignment with it. I found his thought, his word and deed was so perfectly aligned. So perfectly aligned. When Baba talks of simple living, high thinking, trust me, he really means it. He lives that, right? He would open his cupboard, and in his cupboard, in his bedroom, one small tiny cupboard it will be, he will open it, steel almirah or cupboard that we call it, right, Godrej. He opens it and it's just packed with orange. So imagine Swami in a good mood. Today what color should I wear? I'll go for orange. That's what it is. It's just orange, deeper orange, lighter orange, maybe a red, maybe a flashy yellow like this on. This must have been on a Gokulash to me. And even wearing this, Swami will be very shy. So it was like, he's gone really like the wild west. He decided to go, and when Swami wore his first purple robe, he was blushing so much. The first white robe he wore, he was blushing so much when he even stepped out of the interview room. I was there, I've seen all this, I remember them very clearly. For his 60th birthday, he wore a pinkish kind of a very beautifully rich robe. Swami was so shy about it, He was rather like, it's like the bride getting dressed. It's not like a everyday dress. So he was very embarrassed and it's not like for me type. But otherwise, his cupboard was just filled with orange. His towels in the bathroom was just the tortu mundu, we call it, simple, thin cotton things. Because for some reason, he would say Turkish towel, they don't absorb water, I don't like it, I don't want it, finish. So nothing to convince him. And they would not dry inside because there was no place to dry his towels. So for these things would dry up by the time he goes for a shower again next day. So things like that was so very simple. Even a toothbrush will not get dried up before the next day because it will still be damp, because there was really no air, right? The bathroom was barely 3 feet by 3 feet, a dingy bathroom. It was clean because we are supposed to keep it clean, but there were no tiles there, and so it was like that for the longest time. Even in 80s, I remember Swami fell once. And then he called us and shouted at us, you people just not cleaning properly, because there will be moss formed in that cement. And devotees, I distinctly remember some of the senior devotees begging Swami, and I was standing outside the room and they were telling Swami, we'll put tiles and all. Swami said, who has the money? You have the money? You think devotees are sending money to put tiles in the bathroom? No, don't talk about it. He was so particular about everything that was going on, and that whatever he did should represent his mission. It was literally dedicating. When we talk of dedication to a cause, dedication for a purpose, and these are the lessons that inspire me to whatever I'm doing. I'm not nowhere close to his level of intensity, but those are what inspires me is that life he led, and not what he spoke. Speaking, of course, always inspires us, but when somebody follows it with action, then you don't need speech at all. It becomes redundant, right? So looking at Swami, for me, that was my first step towards accepting him. The first thing was curiosity. Curiosity led to admiration. I began to admire him. I just couldn't find any other word to describe my feelings for him. Was admiration. My God, how does he do this? How is he able to... you see, the traditional mindset that was followed at that time with Baba, and I don't know if it changed in later in the 90s and the 2000 later, I don't know. But the tradition was, Baba, unless he speaks to somebody, there is no conversation. The conversation is always initiated by Swami. Okay, whether it is a group interview, he sits and he says, Kya samachar, bolo, and he'll ask, right? If it's a group interviews, if you all have been in the interview room, he starts a conversation, he holds a conversation, he leads the conversation. So that part is okay. But even in his private quarters, there was really no space in his lifestyle, no space where he would say, chalo, yeah, darshan and all, okay, let's chill. Enough of all philosophy, let's just relax and chill, you know. There wasn't anybody for Swami to chill with, except students. But with students, again, we are looking up to him, he is teaching us, right? It was, to me, that's what my point of admiration was. Where is that private space for him? There was no private space. You know what I'm talking about, the private space. We have a public space where everybody sees us who we are. Then we have a private space where nobody sees us who we are, and we have the freedom to do what we want. We don't have to be hypocrites, but we don't have to necessarily stick to what we project ourselves publicly. We don't have to. Like the Johari window model, if you will, they have this public figure and the private figure and all. But with Swami's, for him it was, watching him privately and publicly, there was really no difference. And he didn't have that private space. He didn't seem to want it. There was no regret in this thing. There was no need for that private space. He didn't have close circle of friends whom he can converse with and who can exchange with. It was always he has to speak, otherwise nobody will speak to him. To me, I saw that part was where Baba was very lonely, because he has to start a conversation. If he's sitting, everybody will be standing like this, including the senior most people in the ashram. And I'm saying this to you all because sometimes we take it for granted, right? We miss the small things in an avatar's life, which actually, for me, are the most powerful lessons, which I take greatest enthusiasm in sharing these, because this is the inner life of an avatar. This is what made him do what he did. And this is why they take birth in a human form, to show us, okay, I also have 2 feet and 2 hands like you do. Baba would tell us often, if I come with Shankha and Chakra, you'll put me in a museum and charge fees for my darshan. So I'm like you fall sick, I also fall sick, you walk, I walk, you run, walking, talking, reading, writing. Swami would say that very often to us. So it was that level of that humanness, and to me that humanness in Swami is what made him divine. My faith in Swami, if you ask me, is the humanness, that integrity. To me, a normal person, it's very difficult to follow that integrity, very difficult to be so austere, very difficult to be the alignment of thought, word and deed. Integrity, is alignment of thought. You speak something, you think something, you do. Truly, if when Baba would say, alone I am God, among women I am a woman, among children I am a child, Baba would say this, right? We have all come across these quotes, among men I am a man, alone I am God. And I saw that. Alone he was God. Alone he was God in the sense, he was, to me it became clear, he had an access to some other dimension which was completely not available to us. And that was his source of energy. There was no sunshine, there was no long walks. His walks were after evening bhajan in that small tiny room, which is probably this size. He'll walk up and down. He'll put off the fan and he'll lift his robe, and we'll be downstairs, and Swami, nobody disturbs Swami during his evening walk time. So that'll be about 15 minutes, brisk walking, because you will hear the swish of his robes. That's all, because it's really silent there, right? So when he would walk, we would hear the sound. That's his walk. So there was no long walks, and there was no Fitbit watches and smart watches to tell me how many steps he got per day. There was no vitamin D from the sun that you needed. He broke all those. Everything that you and I would find excuses we need. That's why we need to get out of this. This is not good for me. He broke all that. What inspired him, what kept him going was he had access to that place. Alone he was God. He experienced that. That was his experience. And that experience is what made him do everything. And I say this because we are in fact, we are experts in making gods, right? We already had 33 crores gods. They say, Muppatti Mukkodu Devargal, they say in Tamil. We have so many lists of gods. So the moment somebody comes, we'll say, yes, you also God. Now we compose bhajans, we'll say Arati should be 208 names, 1008 names, this, that. We become experts in how to praise him. But then he comes and says, you are also God. We somehow conveniently put that aside. No, you are God. Who am I to be God? But he has come to awaken us, right? Remind us that I am doing this so that you can understand and learn and awaken your own divinity. And to me, that is the most self-empowering message of Swami. He showed it in person. Don't worry about whether you have money or no money, whether you have social networking as we call it today, whether you have friends and no friends, whether you have a career, no career. Almost everything, Swami had an excuse not to perform, correct? Think of that. A boy born and brought up in a village which literally had no place, no roads to go there, a river that you had to cross. He's born there. He becomes an avatar. Now, this is not the story of 5,000 years ago when we heard a child was born in the dark dungeons of Mathura and somehow the child was taken across and child became king of Mathura. We talk about in terms of belief now, whether you want to believe that story or not. That's a matter of belief. In Christianity, you will hear about a son of a carpenter, hidden away from the Romans, name also not given, birth not recorded. He becomes a son of man. Again, it's a matter of belief because those are so far back, we can't even relate to them as actual incidents, right? As growing up, I would think, how can one cowherd become a king? I mean, that's just a story, somebody's belief, we call it. But then here is Baba's life, right in our generation. It's open to all kinds of investigations and research, if you will. Born in a village, this village boy, at what age? 13 or 14, he decides to carry out a mission in life. An inspiration, right? And he sticks to that. What was backing him? Did he have his parents patting him on his back, saying, good child, we are so proud of you, go for it? And did he have a village cheering him on and saying, yes? They all thought he was possessed. They literally talk of physical abuse, verbal abuse. They took him to the various witch doctors, cut open his head. And actually Swami had a hearing problem because of that, right? Physically, one of his ears had got damaged. So nobody really encouraged him when he said that. But yet he stuck to his path. Why? Because he wants to show us that don't be put off by one or two obstacles. Once you believe in a cause, then give everything you have and the universe will come to help you make it happen. And I say this because many years later, in 1990, when one of the largest sports meet at that time took off, after that first incident of our yoga on the rope and all of that, slowly every year we started performing something. And slowly it became January 11th and 14th and that kind of a time frame. Kind of it evolved organically. That dates were chosen away from Swami's birthday, away from Christmas. We had that silent slot which we grabbed. Otherwise there's always something going on. So I guess Swami also allowed that. And so in the 1990 there was this march past and all of that started on a big scale. And Swami had kind of put me in charge of or rather he started talking to me about everything that was going on. So kind of I was a point person. And as the days came nearer to that event, I was getting very nervous. I said, how will I ever be able to deliver? Keep up to Swami's expectations. I hope nothing goes wrong and so on and so forth. Plus I had to perform jumping over a moving car and all of those crazy stunts. So a lot of things are in place. But that's when Swami said, why are you afraid? When I once, a couple of days before that program, I said, Swami, I'm very nervous. Because I wanted to put that disclaimer before to Swami, right? Afterwards, he might not think. Then very beautifully, Swami said, why are you afraid? You're not the doer. Whenever there is a selflessness, niswartham, the word he used was niswartham. Niswartham means without selfishness. If there is no selfishness in what you are doing, all the grahas will come as anugraha and serve. He talked me in Telugu, but he used the word with navagraha and anugraha. He played with those words. Navagraha is the 9 celestial celestial bodies in the sky, which influence our psyche. He said all of them will come to serve you as anugraha, as grace. Why do you worry? Even the universe will come to serve you. Only thing, remove yourself, swartham. Don't have anything selfish in what you're doing. Just go out. And though I perhaps didn't grasp the whole meaning of that at that point, to me those are the kind of beautiful words that sustain me. That there is really nothing to be afraid of. And when Swami tells that, he tells it from his heart. In the sense, he's not telling you just for some boy who's, okay, let me tell him some words. He's not a professional counselor who has to please you. He shares that power with you. And because you saw him live like that, he truly, truly lived a life where do things and it will start flowing. He actually unleashed a universal law that when you don't have something, don't wait for it to come. Start giving that very thing you don't have. Start giving it. It's kind of an irony, right? But when you don't have something, you actually start giving it, more of it will start coming. But when you wait for it to come because you don't have, you will never have. The giving is the key to receiving more. But you don't even, but you have to do it selfishly. You can't give with the hope of receiving. See that there is a power there, there's a divine power there, and Swami did that. So in the years that followed, my father, of course, by then my parents became devotees. Like I said, there were other leelas that Swami performed, and he drew the entire crowd. Their intense devotion towards Shiva and Muruga just had to get slight, this highway, they put slight diversion, that's all. And they fully came to Swami. It was just the same floodgate that opened with Swami. Swami had my father looking after the central trust accounts, and so he was in the ashram. And I mentioned that is because even in that time when my father was taking care of the accounts, and later on I also spent a couple of years at the accounts, central accounts, there was never a time that there was excess money. And I need everybody to understand this, because in our own lives we think when money comes I can also do. And I have spoken to youngsters in abroad, and many of them said, but if I had money like Baba did, I would have also done. I said, you're making the biggest mistake. He didn't do because he had the money. Money came to him because he started doing things. It's very different. So waiting was never the key word for Swami. He would never wait. Any project he started, it wasn't because there was money in the accounts. It was, at the moment has come, I have to do this, let's get going. That's how it was, always. It was always pushing the envelope to its limits. Always, everybody was at their edge trying to help Swami and make it happen. And it grew. When Swami announced for the hospital, I always say this, there was no money in the accounts section. Swami gave a discourse and he said, 1 year, this is going to happen. When Swami sent us many years before for this water project, his vision was always big. Those steps will be very small. His vision was never compromised. So many years before the water project, I believe later on, I was not there, so I can't speak exactly when it happened, but I think somewhere in the late 90s, there was a Japanese group which gave money for the water project or something like that, a big amount, and it became a big project, right? Water project as we know it today, and the pictures, all that. But 10 years ago, 12 years before that, in the mid 80s, Swami would send, I was part of that 3 or 4 person team. Swami would send a couple of engineers and 2 of us boys, go we'll take a jeep and go. Swami's aim was give water to villagers. So what our job was, we were just going and coming back with them. We had no clue. But I think Swami was giving us the chance to experience what was going on, exposing us to that. And I'm so grateful Swami did that. We would go, the engineer would explore a place and see where a borewell can be dug. Report to Swami. And Swami will decide, okay, put a borewell there. See, the vision is big. Steps are tiny, but that didn't discourage Swami, right? He didn't say, what is this one borewell I'm giving to this village, barely 50 people will use it, where this big vision. Sometimes we get discouraged where our visions may be big, our ideas may be big, but the steps we are taking seemingly are very small. But that happened over a decade that was happening. In the meantime, Swami had energy in the education thing, he was getting that going, right? So nothing phased him. One was taking slow, he said, all right, let that go. A small hospital up the hill, how many years that was, right? With Dr. Alreja going. Many of you would have seen that on the way to the admin block. Now it's a general hospital in a much bigger state, even that building is much bigger. It was a small hospital for decades. But free education, free medicine was Swami's big vision. And all of that took time to materialize, but it never phased him out. He never got discouraged. He kept pushing towards it. The beauty of it was never asked a single person like this. He said, my hand will never go like this. Never. And that's why when I teach or when we do this yoga thing or anything like that, for me, where does that inspiration come from? It is just this. Swami once, and I'm sharing these life experiences, life lessons, because you can all relate to it, right? When the college, when we had finished our PhD, we were the first batch of lecturers. Again, like I said, Swami was pushing the financial envelope to its limits because there was a university now that had to be run. There was ashram that was growing. People were started coming in, so that had to be maintenance free. And you know how it was those days. I don't know how it is today, but it was very nominal charges. Barely would cover the daily running. 2 rupees, 5 rupees canteen tickets and all, you know that, right? So largely it was run by donations by people. Landlords nearby would donate truckloads of rice and grains and things like that. So when we became lecturers, I guess Swami was told that we are lecturers in the university. The university will expect us to pay the university grades of that scale, university UGC scale, pay grades or something. And I'm sharing a very beautiful, very intimate conversation between Swami and me, and I don't mind sharing it with devotees either on camera or anything, because I've shared these before also, because I want people to know what Swami's teachings were, what valuable it was, and how real he put effort to get his mission going. He didn't wave his hand and make it happen. Because I think if avatars come in, that would be like making fun of us. Oh, you can't do, see what I can do. It's never like that, right? He comes and struggles like us, shows us what dedication can do, what core beliefs can do, what hard work can do, what focused attention and all of that can do. He showed us. And so this is one of those where he called a group of us and he said, I'm so happy you are lecturers, you have my blessings. But very sweetly he said, see, Swami is in such a position now, I cannot give you UGC scales. Is it okay if I give you some pocket money? I promise I'll make sure I'll give you something. Can you imagine how we were so touched by that? Very sweetly. And in that moment, of course we said, Swami, no, we don't want anything from Swami. No, I'll give something. Don't worry, I'll take care of you. At that moment, Swami was saying, I still can't understand when people want to teach, why is there money involved in education? It was a genuine problem for Swami. Teaching and money healing and money, teaching and money, he thought these are divine things, right? How can education have a price to it? There should be no price. Idi inta kavala, anta kavali. Who plans this? Who determines how much should be paid to whom? It was like he was struggling to understand why are we putting price on that. And in that very interview, Swami said, I want you boys, and that's why he said, I want you boys also, never do this. don't go like this. Swami kani, Meer kani, me or you, never go like this. Eppudu mee cheyi itla, your hand should always be like, give. So in that context, and that is actually a universal principle there. That's a powerful lesson there. When you start giving, you open the universal abundance. The literally abundance begins to flow into your life because you're giving, right? It has to flow. And Swami explained how in that giving concept there is a river that flows, which is always fresh. A well can hold water, but however big the well is, however big a lake is, it could become stale. But be like the river. Just keep giving, And so that beauty and that power we didn't get it at that point, but as years and decades have passed in my life, I can speak for myself how beautiful it is. Abundance to me today, if you ask me, is not a big balance in the bank, not heavy investments and not that, but the continuity of flow as and when you need it. Is that what we need? I mean, today I might have $1 million in the bank, but if I can't eat my meal, then what is the use of that $1 million? If I have $1 million in the bank and I can't sit on the seat on a chair because of my hip problem or this problem, then what is the use of having that, right? So that is the abundance, is as when you need it, it is provided for you. So it's a kalpavriksha, and that is unending. So what else you want, right? That is the power that Swami teaches us in this concept of giving. Is this, and therefore if somebody would ask me, wake me up even in the middle of the night, ask me what is one word describe Swami, I'll say giving. Giving was his mantra. Giving was his lifestyle. He lived, and his face would light up when it comes to giving. Even the smallest thing. I can tell you so many instances about just that quality of giving. Why? So in that, anyway, before I go to that, Swami in that evening, Swami talked about this very beautiful anecdote he gives, story. He said one jeweler was there, he was walking past a village, and one young boy was playing with marbles, shining stones. So the jeweler looked and he realized these boys was playing with marbles. He said, "Arey, these are not just marbles, these are diamonds actually. They look like marbles, but they're diamonds." So he called the boy, he said, "Show me those marbles you're playing with." The boy showed him. It's a village boy, right? He's just playing where is dung and all of that. So he takes it, he sees these are beautiful diamonds. So he tells the boy, knowing that the boy doesn't realize the value of this, he tells the boy, "I'll give you 200 rupees for this." The boy is very happy because he's never seen 200 rupees. So he gets 200 rupees. Then the villager, this jeweler takes it, and Swami says that the diamonds in his hand burst into thousands of pieces and disappears. And he's shocked. And then the deity appears to him, it seems. The Devi appears, and he says, why did you disappear from my hand? And she says, "You insulted me and therefore I disappeared. You don't deserve me." He says, "How did I insult you? That boy was playing in the dung, you were rolling there in the dirt and mud. I could have made jewelry for the king, I could have made jewelry for the temple, deity. How can I insult you?" He said, and the deity tells him, and this is the lesson, right? He says, "That boy didn't know my value, and therefore he was playing. You who knew my value yet gave him something that is so less. You insulted me by paying so much less." That is the thing. So Swami said, when you're teaching, you're giving education for life. That education is priceless. How can you put a label, say this is what this is, my salary should be this much, otherwise I will not teach? That was Swami's enigma, if you will. He couldn't match it, and to this day I cannot match it. I cannot understand. People ask me, "You're teaching yoga. Yoga is $1 billion industry today. You're on the right track. Oh my gosh, Sunder." I said, I cannot understand how can I put a price tag to something that took me to God. How can I say my classes are worth $50, 50 rupees, come and pay me 50 rupees per class? How can I'll be insulting my own knowledge, right? How can we put a price tag to something that we consider priceless? So healing is priceless, right? Ask a person who actually got healed. They know what it is to be healed, whether it's a simple back pain or whether it's a simple sprain, like you said. The joy of healing is priceless. How can you somebody says, "I will heal you, pay me this much." So from a God perspective, that is against the very principles of universal abundance. because we limited. And when we limited in our lives, limitations happen in many facets. And therefore, collectively or individually, we live this lifestyle of limitation. We say we have to be practical. We say Bhuma Devi, but then we always calculating my house is worth this much, this is how much this land. We are dealing her as if she is a product, yet we say she is Mother Earth. See the irony of it, right? I don't have solutions but I know that we are far away from where we should be. Each of us need to ask ourselves that's why that sense of values, we need to constantly examine what is my sense of values, how am I making peace with what I am doing right now. We all need not do everything free. I'm not saying you should, but you have to make peace with whatever you're doing, and that has to be from your heart, not an intellectual conviction because it's convenient, but because you truly believe this is what it is. The day I find an answer and I'm able to resolve this, then I will charge, but I'm nowhere close to understanding what is the value of what I teach. When I do a deep shavasana and relax and take people deep into themselves, I find I'm meeting them at a level of the spirit. And how can that experience be ever put down in terms of value? It cannot, right? So that is the beauty of giving. Don't worry about how much it costs. But people ask me, what happens? People don't respect it. They will not respect. I said, that is their problem. And exactly what Swami told us. I'm giving you all so much, you will not even understand it. That is your problem. Me karma adi, ne name chedi. What can I do? It is your karma if you don't understand what is going on here at this moment. So we also took Swami for granted. There were many times, so many occasions Swami has spoken to us. I still now go deep into my meditations, hoping those words come back in some form. Many times you have taken it for granted. Oh, he is there, Swami spoke something, right? If only we understood the value of every word. He was giving it freely, just like Jesus did, just like Krishna did. He did it. But it was up to us to give value to those words. And if we didn't give value, who's the loser? Not him, us. Jesus didn't lose by giving Sermon on the Mount free, right? He's transformed the world. But people who didn't understand that, they were the losers, right? So it is never what others think or what others value. It is what you value. How will you build your system of values around what we do? And I think that is, as devotees of Baba, as people in the spiritual path, we need to iron out those inconsistencies in our heart, mind and soul in our own way. And I'm sure God will guide us in our own understanding. Because if we don't do that, our spiritual growth only stays as a matter of belief. We are waiting to grow. 10 years ago, we were waiting to grow. 10 years later, we are still waiting to grow. 20 years from now, we will still be saying someday it will come. When that someday will be today? When that moment will be now? At this moment, I feel one with God. Why is not happening? Because there is some inconsistency within us. We have to iron out. Spirituality is very down to earth, very real. God is extremely, extremely real. And that we have to really bring out and build that heart-to-heart connection with God. I think that is so important. And to me, once that is established, it is so enriching that I don't seek anymore. Honestly, I don't seek. I want to only share. And the more I share, the more Swami provides that knowledge. Before COVID, when I sat, and I'm sharing these very personal thoughts because that's what he's making me do anyway today. Before COVID, I used to talk to groups of people like this, right? We had eye contact and there was an energy which was what I was used to many years of talking different satsangs in the US. Then COVID came and then I was forced to sit in front of a camera. First I thought, what is this camera? How can I speak to a camera? I mean, I'm just looking at it and talking. I don't know what to talk. But the beauty of that was when I was alone in front of that camera, just Maya, my wife, will be there helping me with that computer and stuff like that. I'll be sitting. It was like meditation, right? Because there was nobody to disturb. It was me and my thoughts, and I was simply voicing my thoughts. And suddenly that was a very profound discovery that I truly experienced even to this day, simply being the channel, and that knowledge will flow. I've talked about Dakshinamurti Stotram, Devi Khadgamala, the Sri Chakra, and all of these which I used to practice as my personal practice. I never thought I will be able to teach it. But when I started teaching, it is almost literally, I get into a zone, and then now when I listen to it, I'm like, wow, where did that come from? Where did this guy? I have to make notes from my own talk. I cannot take credit of that. How does that happen? It is that when you really make that connection, it's amazing. That experience of Godhead is very real. And then what happens is a sense of deep security. That security is priceless. A sense of such a, it's like being home. There is a place where you can go where you're truly home. There is no fear there, just peace. That peace is so beautiful. That once you experience and taste, then no other music and soft music or this music or that music or no great sofa or no car on earth or no luxury, nothing can come anywhere even close to that. That was now, I'm beginning to get a taste of what Swami was saying, that, you are God principle, awaken the God principle from within you. It is so important that we do that, because that is our enrichment. That is, he did that so that we can all experience that greatest enrichment that Vedanta and Vedas came to offer, right? The essence of Vedanta, if you will, the 4 Mahavakyas, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the Brahman. Ekoham Bahushyam, I am one, I become the many. It's I am in you, you are in me. Like Purnamada, Purnamidam. We are all complete in ourselves. You are complete in your universe. I am part of your universe. And in my universe, you all are part of my universe. And that's beautiful, right? That is the essence of Vedantic teaching. And that's what he lived truly. So there was nothing that could say that he could not put it. He would say, give me nothing and I would change that nothing to everything. He truly meant it, because that is what Vedanta teaches us. And to us, if we don't do that, there is no harm in worshipping Swami as God. There's nothing at all. That's beautiful. But in that worship, we have to lift ourselves to that level. But if we say, poor me, and we sit there and we only remind ourselves, Swami, why am I struggling like this? Why are you testing me like this? And we take our sob story to him, sit there with our sob stories, recite our sob stories in front of the Kamadhenu. Tathastu will only happen. Tathastu. Meaning, so we are only reliving our own insecurities again and again. So in spite of being devotees 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, we have not got over that insecurity. Maybe we have, some of us have. I'm not at all being judgmental, but I ask myself this question, right? Having been devotees, I can tell you stories. The Swami performed a wedding. Oh, this is what happened. He gave us this sari and this thing, that thing. And you will say, oh, you're so lucky. And we go home, you go home. Nobody learns anything. Where is transformation, right? And thus we can say what all Swami did to us. But then what did we do with it? What did I do with those darshans that I got? Or what am I doing with the teachings of Baba? Am I running after another Baba? Now people ask me, what about Prema Sai Baba? I said, I have got enough homework from Sathya Sai Baba. Please leave me. I am happy. I'm content. I'm content with it. I don't want, if Prema Sai Babas come and call me, it will happen on its own. I'm not going searching for any more Babas. I'm happy with this. This one-on-one, this is the secret of Baba. He never encouraged us to go searching for people who claim that, he speaks through them and this and that. That's all insulting and reducing Baba to a ghost. You can never reduce divinity to a ghost. Nobody's had to punish you, but your definition of God is now reduced to he is speaking through him, and therefore my God is coming through him. There itself you are limited what an idea of God is, right? God is omnipresent, omniscient, and that is part of me. Every fiber of me has to awaken Baba, and therefore that energy principle is what he taught us. And the secret is in that giving, because in that giving you reduce the separatedness. You value the person who receives it as much as you value yourself. This is what I saw in Swami. He valued the person who received it as much as he valued himself. He respected what he gave. And therefore it was never a matter of, chalo, Anantapur girls have come, okay, let us give him saris. So some saris, I'll give it, right? I mean, if I was a Baba, I would have done that. Who's going to have time to figure out what sari? He will pick each sari and find out how much it costs, what it costs, where it came from. He'll have it opened and see how it is. Why would he pay attention to those small details? I've actually been with him in Sundaram when he took us, haggling with, say haggling, please take it in a context, haggling with these people who would say, Swami, we want to give saris. Show me some samples. They'll show samples. How much are these? Swami, what for you, Swami? Why should I be take it, Swami? No, tell me how much. Open this sari. This is not so good quality. No, show me good quality. Don't worry about money. Swami will give. Like that, Swami will sit and haggle with this. But it is the interest, because he wants to give something. He wants to make sure that giving is respect. That act of giving is respectful. Just think of this. When we give something that we don't need anymore, how many of us have done that, right? We don't need it, that's all torn, and give it away. This poor people like that, just give it away. Then what happens is the universe also gives back things that the universe doesn't need. So when you give out trash, at some level trash comes back. Not necessarily in the form of clothes. If you give away clothes, you don't get trash clothes, but in some other form, maybe somewhere in the form of a bad boss at work, or some colleague who is going to create that, something happens. We create that cycle. We can never escape that cycle, right? But if we respect what we give, including every single paper that we throw, we are going to say, am I throwing it on Mother Earth? Is it going to trash? Can I, we talk of environmental friendly, but there's a great spiritual lesson there. If only I become mindful of every single object. What others do, I don't care. What am I doing? If each one of us say, from my side, I don't want to insult Mother Earth. I won't throw a plastic which is going to eventually land up in some whale's stomach or a dolphin's stomach in the sea. I will be responsible. Whether I know it or not, like it or not, it's going to happen. Why do I want to do that? How can I keep on recycling it? What are the ways I can minimize, for example, plastic? Forget global warming and all that. Just we, as individuals, can limit to the extent that we can. And when we give back the best. Swami once wanted to donate clothes to flood victims, and we all donated our old clothes. He called us in the evening and he let us have it. He said, people who have lost everything in their lives are waiting. Flood has robbed them. You think they're going to wear your dirty bunions and t-shirts? And this is what you learned from Swami. I've thrown that all away, burnt it all away. I've given new clothes to them. Is this what you give to people who don't have? Just think about how was he approaching the giving concept. When people don't have, give them the best. Won't you expect the best when you are in that position? Then why don't you give the very best? So if Diwali is coming and you don't give away old clothes to somebody, buy a new set, brand new set, and give it to. Don't worry about whether they like it, whether they deserve it, whether they sell it. That is not our concern. Our concern, am I respecting my act of giving? People have received gifts from Swami. They might have used it, they might have misused it. That is not Swami's point of view. My Swami's point of view is when I am giving, I want to really love that person, give that with great respect. So, in my father's 60th birthday again, the night before, Colonel Jogara comes with a bag, a sari for my mother, a dhoti for my father, everything. Next day is supposed to go for interview. And Colonel Jogara tells my mother, you're doing some special puja, I think. Swami specifically chose the sari for you. My mother got nervous. No, what do you mean, sir? Nothing and all. And Colonel Jogara said, no, I was there upstairs. And Swami opened the cupboard and he was looking at the saris. I think Sundara, his mother, is a little dark skin. What sari will be good? I'm thinking like that. See, I mean, he could have just said, take one sari, give it away to Iyer's parents. We are not multi-million-dollar devotees or, what I'm saying, donation. Nothing. We are not VIPs. Please, even if that thought crosses your mind or if anybody is listening on camera later thinks about that. No, nothing. We were nobodies, right? We're just regular devotees. But this is who he was. When he had to give somebody, he wanted to make sure that act of giving has a dedication to it, a quality to it, a mark of respect to it. That is who I saw in Swami. That is the beauty. And because of that giving, see, even super specialty hospital, look at the quality. It has, right? Considering it free. When we say something is free, we'll say, if we are giving it free, who cares? Just give it. How dare they question it? It is free. They don't mind. We say it's okay to compromise on quality because it's free. We think it is okay. But then from a divine perspective, it's not okay because we are not going with the law of the universal law of giving. We are not following that. The universal law of giving is you give the very best because then you harness the divine abundance. The divine abundance will set in motion a beautiful principle where the best will come back to you. The best of things will happen. and you will be able to give with no limitations. When I gave up my job in 2011, my wife, instead of saying, why are you giving your job? No, how will you? She said, it's okay, we have to start our job again working in petrol pump or something. It's okay, we'll do it. If you have always been wanting to do this, now that Swami is gone, you want to do this, go ahead, all the way. So I had no excuse to say, I wanted to do Swami, but my wife has stopped me, I couldn't. Then we told her parents, now in-laws will say, Arey, what is this, son-in-law, and US has given up a job, we trusted them. In-laws turned around and said, we are so proud of you, Sundar, please go give up your life for Swami. Arey Bapre. What I'm saying is, when you decide to give, the universe encourages you from all sides and pushes you in that direction. You know the time is right when this happens. The beauty of that is, from that day to this day, whenever I needed something, it has always come in place at the right time, at the right place. And all the desires get fulfilled in part of that, as part of that giving. Every little desire I might have had in some form, it all happened as part of that. It's amazing how the universe works it. So when I told you earlier I wanted to go to Pune Institute because I loved acting, I wanted to be a comedian, I wanted to act because with my height and looks, obviously I didn't want to be a hero. I had no illusions about that at all. In Puttaparthi, Swami literally made me write dramas, direct dramas. He interacted with me, gave me roles, and almost in all those roles I was comedian or a villain comedian, Pandit role. Always all of them had Pandits. So the kind of when I grew up, I was so against all this pujas and Pandit. Swami made where that become a Pandit in every drama. It was Cheppinatlu Chestara was a drama that Swami had written when he was a child, and then he made us enact it again because there was a boy called V. Shrikant, who was a very good singer, young boy. He acted as Satya. He's now in Boston. And so Swami made me the master who gets stuck in the chair. So again, villain. It was then Shankaracharya drama. I was the chief villain Pandit again. And then there was a 65th birthday drama. There was another Harikatha Pandit again. I was. So he gave me enough opportunities to act. What I'm saying in this larger scheme of things is, when you dedicate your life to Swami, all those little desires that you had, everything finds a place there. So much so that your heart is completely contained. Like, wow, even without asking, even my wildest desires have been automatically taken. I didn't have to give this up to go there. It seems, sometimes when we do certain things, it might not seem linked together. But the universe knows how to link these things. It will orchestrate it. Think of the cosmic intelligence that we call God, which Baba represents. That cosmic intelligence knows how to orchestrate the universe. You think it won't understand your life? Of course it is. We are part of that divine. We just have to allow it to happen. And the secret of allowing it to happen is let go. Let go, let God. And that letting go we learn by giving. Finally, that letting go of ego and all will come. But first, let us let go of learn to respect the idea of giving, the joy of giving. With Swami, that was a secret. And that is what really stayed with me. My curiosity grew into admiration. My admiration grew into devotion. And then love and surrender. It kind of took its own time. I didn't know when there was no magical moments that it happened. But then it was a very beautiful journey from not knowing him at all to being him in my thoughts every moment of every day of my life. I cannot now, even if I want to, forget Swami or deny who he is. I cannot. I mean, I've witnessed him firsthand, and I've seen not only his superhuman powers, that is one side of the picture, but that also was a reflection of this core belief, because he truly lived, he truly experienced the divinity. It was not a put on thing, it was not a belief that he adopted. He truly experienced that. And he would say, you can also do that. That is the beauty of, he makes it so simple. We are the ones who think it's complicated, right? And I'll end with this anecdote. I know it's dangerous to give me a mic and say, talk about Swami. So I will end with this, not anecdote, it's an experience where Swami raises us to the highest in simple conversations, So two of us were sitting, pressing Swami's feet. Swami did this boy next to me, he did this, like that. And Swami looked at him and said, "Hey, what happened? You got cold?" He just sheepishly smiled at Swami. And Swami said, "Hey, tell it to go away, it'll go." So both of us just smiled. We thought Swami was joking. Cheppu, get out. Cheppu, potundi. Tell that cold to go away, it'll go. So we were like, no, really. See, if I cut my hand, if I tell the blood go away, go back into the skin, it will go. And then again we looked at Swami's, thinking, of course you can, And Swami said, you can't do that? We said, no, Swami, obviously we can't do that. Anyway, don't try it at home. So Swami said, why can't you try? What is the difference between you and me? I can do it, you can also do it. So here comes before the really beautiful, powerful teaching, okay? So, నేను కూడా చేస్తాను కదా, మీరు ఎందుకు చేయకూడదు? Why can't you all do it? So, Swami leaned forward, looked into us eyes closely, leaned forward and he said, hey, మీకు రెండు కన్ను ఉందా? అవును స్వామి, నాకు కూడా రెండు కన్ను ఉంది కదా. చెయ్యి ఎట్లా ఉంది, ఎంత చెయ్యి ఉంది మీకు? రెండు చెయ్యి, నాకు కూడా రెండు చెయ్యి. It means you have 2 hands, I have 2 hands, you have 2 feet, I have 2 feet. Swami went like this. Reading, writing, walking, talking, you also do, I also do. Tell me, where is the difference? Like this, he's looking into our eyes, okay, leaning forward. Cheppandi, ekkada undi difference? And we are looking into Swami's eyes. At that moment, for that moment, the mind was blank, in the sense we couldn't tell out what is the difference, right? And before we could come out wisely and say there is no difference, Swami said, kana undi. There is. So he knew that we were at that spot, but look at the difference. Look at what difference he's telling. He said, kani undi. Don't enjoy, don't celebrate it too much. Kani undi. Ekkada undi telsa? Where is the difference? Do you know? Ikkada undi, he said. And pointing to his eyes, here is the difference. We didn't get it. And then he used this word, Telugu word. He said, Chupulo undi. Chupulo means perspective. The way you perceive, your perception. Chupulo. The way you perceive. And then beautifully he said, you think you are a small atom in this universe. ఈ బ్రహ్మాండంలో నేను ఒక చిన్న అణువును అనుకుంటున్నారు మీరు. You all think that you are a small atom in the universe. అవునా కదా, he asked. And we were like, of course, isn't that our comfort zone? Perfect, right? Perfect to think, who am I? I'm just a small, tiny atom in this vast universe. Swami said, I see the universe as a tiny atom in me. Ade difference. Chupulo. I perceive the universe as a tiny atom in me. You perceive yourself as a tiny atom in the universe. Chupulo marchukondi. No difference. Change your perspective. No difference. From his vantage point, he comes and he plays with us and he talks to us and he eats like us, walks like us, talks like us and all of that. But look at the difference in the perception, right? It's like the kindergarten teacher and the kindergarten student. Both are saying A for apple, B for bat. But you can't put them both in the same level. One is teaching and one is reciting. One knows the complete meaning that A is for apple, but A is for so many other things also. Abercrombie also, right? But this child only thinks A is for apple till the child has to grow. But both are sitting at that moment saying A for apple, B for bat, C for cat and so on. So Baba did that with us. But when push came to shove, he showed us that the difference is in perception. Change your perception. And that's what it is. See, but what we do is our comfort level, and I tell you because I go through this, been through this, we say, okay, that's all nice, but how do I work towards and go towards that? We think spiritual progress, like we progress in career, when we progress in school, that idea of progress is embedded in our subconscious mind. We think we have to progress. We don't have to progress. We just have to wake up from a sleep. There is a progress from being asleep and being awake. You're either asleep or you're awake, correct? When you're awake, you're no longer asleep. When you're asleep, you're no longer awake. So it's like we have forgotten our true nature, and we are like the prince who has forgotten he belongs to the palace, is outside the palace gates begging, please, somebody tell the Maharaja, please give me something. They say, no, you belong there. No, someday I will go inside, but now please help me. But no, you belong there. See, you see the irony there. We have to just start believing, start saying, start feeling, start meditating, and start truly bringing that perspective that God is me. From the universe, when I open my eyes every morning, the universe emerges. When I go back into sleep, universe dissolves into me. It is not ego. Then that I, who am I, question will, that I, which is limited now to being Sundar, will begin to expand. And that journey will become from I to we. And then it will go to He. He is the one. There is no I, there is no we, there is only He. There is only that one Tattva. We call it Sai principle, we call it Allah, we call it Buddha principles or Shiva, or cosmic Krishna consciousness, whatever you want to call it. That's just a name at that point. But that journey comes when we start saying, and therefore Swami gave on 1983, he said, on his birthday, he said, start saying, I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. Start saying. He just said start saying. But what do we do is, that all, I don't know when it will come. Swami, please help me. I am poor. Tathastu, be there only. I don't know anything, Swami, Tathastu. So we are constantly telling ourselves we don't know anything. Where are we? We put on what we think is humility is actually a cloak of the ego convincing you to stay this way, because that is the comfort zone. We are afraid to get out of this comfort zone because we don't know what to expect. It is too good to be true. Is it not? To realize that Sai and me are one, it's too good to be true. There's no drama there. Maybe there's a much better drama. We don't know. We are like the child who's stuck to the video game. You tell him, give up the food. You need food here. But he's so engrossed in that video game, he doesn't want. He thinks that food is not important. But that food is what sustains him to play more video games, correct? When we go back to that divine principle, then the life opens out and our role, our purpose in this lifetime becomes so clear. It is so clear. We were cleaning Swami's room once and it was dark, so we used a flashlight in one of those storerooms. We just quickly had a flashlight, we put it on. And Swami came from behind, he put on the switch. He aimed at me, flashlight to, you see here, you cannot see there, you see there, you cannot see. Na light lo chudandi, see in my light, he said. Not this room. See, na light lo chudi, anni kanipistundi. And he laughed and went away. But later on, I was ruminating over that. There has to be some beautiful, the statement that came out of Swami touched me. And I kept thinking, and it was so true. In God's light, the boxes are still there. The cobwebs are still there. The dirt is still there. Life doesn't become rosy just because you start saying, I'm God. But then you know where they are, right? You know which box you can move, which box you go and go around. You can weave your way around this. Obstacles will still be there, but they won't be obstacles that you will treat as problems in life, but you will see them as reasons to empower yourself more, like Hanuman did. Swami would quote him very often. Two devotees he'll quote very often. One is Arjuna and one is Hanuman. And both were men of action. You never see Hanuman was the greatest devotee, right? The ideal for surrender, devotion, everything that we want to aspire for, Hanuman has it. But when he stood on the edge of the sea, he had every excuse to say, who am I to jump this ocean? Swami will take care. And Rama will take care. Who am I? Look, so many Vanaras are there, Angada is there, this one. They also cannot jump. Who am I going to jump? He didn't. At that moment, he said, wait a minute. I can't do this if I want to, right? Valmiki writes it very beautifully. All he needed was a Jambavan to remind him when he was a child. As child, we were all Hanumans, you know that, right? The secret of that story is, as children, did we know any shame or any fear? Did somebody tell us not to jump from here to there? They told us, otherwise we would have jumped, or we were at least attempted jumping. We had no fear, we had no shame, we had no idea of beauty and ugliness, we had no idea of all of that as 1 year old and 2 years old. We had no limits to our thinking. We would laugh, go with anybody, everybody. We were perfectly in tune with our divine nature. Then we started putting limitations. Now we consider that normal. So we take that and teach it to somebody else. And so collectively we believe in that limitation, individually, collectively, and we pass it on from generations to generations. And this becomes our reality. But you need a Hanuman there, you need a Arjuna there, who will take it and say, let me, it's not ego that Hanuman did. He said, if God has chosen me, then he knows I must have the power to do this, and therefore let me take this leap. So if you have a task in hand, if you have a vision that comes to you, and you like that vision, it just means you're chosen for that. You have the power within to make it true. The question is, are you willing to dedicate completely to that vision? Are you willing to do that? And to me, for those kind of things, I look up to Swami and I say, how did he do that? And therefore it is definitely possible. And Swami would often tell us, I promise I'll stop with this. Swami would often tell us, if you have to lose fighting a lion, don't win over a little lamb. You win, that is not winning. Even if you lose fighting a lion, I'll consider that as winning. So it's not about succeeding in life, achieving something in life. It's like truly living the life you want to live and finding happiness in what you're doing. I think that is success, right? That is the greatest success. When I sleep at night, this has brought Maya, my wife, and me so close together when we are doing this Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam. We are trying to revive yoga, traditional approaches. We are trying to bring in technology. Now with AI, we are trying to bring in more, how to combine this all together. It becomes a joyous adventure. We are trying to, there's so much more to talk other than did you sleep well that night and what happened, did your stomach burp or instead of that kind of talk, we have more things to talk about. Okay, I need to get this, I need to get that. And I'm not afraid to push it to the limits. Hearing God's voice is perhaps easier than following it. Follow that voice of God, and it's so enriching and so empowering. And it doesn't matter if you fall down once or twice, you get up and start walking, and one day we will all walk in Swami's fold. And I'm sure that Swami will guide us. He is guiding us, he will guide us, and he'll continuously to remind us of our own divinity, and we experience Swami in every moment of our lives. So thank you all for this very patient hearing. I hope you enjoyed this satsang. I did, because I get so it's so soul fulfilling, because we are talking of things that matter truly, and these are the things I hold very dear to my heart. These are the teachings of Swami I take home with me, in addition to all the wonderful things that he did in our lives. So let us offer our deepest gratitude to Swami and bring this satsang to an end.
समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy.